Okay, we're back in part 2 of the training video, and by popular demand, people want me to build a ship and put it in orbit, which, um, if you watch part 1, I may not have the supplies to do this, but I'll do the best I can. Okay, first of all, let's go into build our ship. Let's get a capsule, and let's name our ship. We'll call it Spacecraft 2. Okay, got our ship name. And secondly, put a parachute on your capsule. And I would put, well, let's not jump ahead. Let's put a small fuel tank. And I'm going to use this VL 909 liquid engine because that is somebody's trying to do a test and having issues. So I'll put that engine on, which I use this engine all the time, a lot. So it's kind of it's a good engine. Now I will go into structures and get this and attach it on the bottom. Now if you notice how I place that, if you like scroll up, you can place it higher, which it won't work properly. So you got to place it right on the bottom of the engine for it to work properly. Okay, now we got those two items on there, and let me go here. Now we got to get the damn thing up in that space. Which getting it up in space may be a little issue, but let's do the FLT 400 fuel tank, which is basically two of the FLT 200 tanks in one. That's what it equals to. And I'm gonna do a couple of these. That way, fuel. Well, let's do 3. I'm checking. Yeah. We don't have a lot of the supplies I would like to use. So, and then if you look over at this engine, this is a 215 thrust engine, which it kind of sucks because it burns a lot of fuel. Granted, it has a lot of more thrust, but it burns a lot more fuel. And we'll slap that on there because it's the only thing we got. And we'll put 4 of these on here. Which we'll see if this thing can make it. This thing may not be able to make it because we don't have the proper supplies yet. And we'll put some parachutes on there. These parachutes, granted, you know, you're not going to keep the thing, but the parachutes break the flow of the air, and it makes it so your smaller engines don't overheat by putting them on there. Granted, if you had the aerodynamics, which is the thing to put over the top, that'd be nice idea to use instead of parachutes, but if you don't have it, parachutes work. And I know for a fact that this engine tends to overheat. So I'll put a smaller gas tank on the bottom to prevent it from overheating. So much. Now I'll do that. And we have a makeshift rocket. Let's see. Now let's get our flight order straightened out, which we want that there. We want the parachute on top. Then we got that. Then we got the discoupler. And these parachutes, we'll just go ahead and slap them down here before that other discoupler, so they'll actually open, and then you discouple the engines. And because of the fact that we do not have the proper equipment, I'm going to go ahead and thrust all these engines at the same time at launch. And we're going to see if this build will work. Which I put my rocket closer to the ground so it don't fall so much when it's put on the launch pad. And let's save this, and this may not work. If it doesn't work, I'll have to do a little bit of research and get the right stuff. We'll go to the launch pad. And we're on the launch pad. I hit my T, hit my shift to bring up my fuel. If you watched my first video, you should know how to do all this. And we got our trusty Kerbal in there. Now, I do not have McJeb, so this is all going to be done manually. So bear with me on this part. Okay. Let's give it a whirl. Now see, it's kind of leaning really bad, which I know a lot of people had issues with this, which the lean is kind of a good lean, in my opinion, because it's going to give us that arc. But you see how we're burning that fuel, and you see that engine overheating. That's what I was talking about. That's why we put this smaller tank on there. But we're really cooking at speed. And now it's leaning back after the smaller engine's cut off. Kind of wobbles back towards the center. And we are slowing down in speed, which I don't think we're going to get full orbit, but we may get the partial orbit that the other tests asked for, which is the suborbit, which we got to get 81,900 meters to 83,500 meters. So we got to get pretty far up there. So you want this thing to burn as fast as you can, and try to get your surface foot to closer to 1,000. And you want your altitude as high as you can possibly get it. It's now we are in an orbit, and like I said, I try to get the minutes per second to 1,000, which we crested 1,000. We're almost out of fuel, so I'm just going to let it burn, and that will get us more height. Now just parachutes and eject our tanker. Now go into your map, hit M. Now we got a pretty high straight up spike, which we want to set our maneuver a little off on the circle. That's okay. Damn it. Just gotta adjust this a little bit. Now this is considered as the suborbit. Is like this, which technically we already reached suborbit, but see, we were moving so fast that our altitude was a little off. Not good. Okay, I better get this done. Now bring it back, and now we got to maneuver to the blue and put the yellow V just like that. You want to see, we're not going to have enough fuel to go in full orbit because that's a lot. We need a lot of speed, and I only have one tank on here, so this is not good. Okay, we're lined up. We got our V perfectly. Got the blue hatchets right underneath our yellow. Our dots are just lined up. We're just waiting for the time to do our burn. And it's a smaller engine. I'm going to go ahead and start this burn early. But I know I'm not going to make it in speed because, like I said, it's a smaller engine and I only put one fuel tank on here. So I'm not going to have enough fuel. So I'll have to redesign this craft to add a fuel tank, maybe a couple of fuel tanks, or put a big one on here. So I can have enough fuel to do this, but I'll do the best I can. It's a light ship, so hopefully it won't take that much to get it into orbit. It's just moving along pretty good. Let's check our map. Let's see our arc. Pretty much get the idea of what you're supposed to do. Which we actually got in partial orbit, pretty much. You gotta be ready to shut off your engines because you want to get it back down, you know. Oh, just ran out of fuel. No, we didn't get the orbit. But we probably can still complete the tests. Well, no, the engine's done. So the test ain't gonna complete, which we were pretty close to getting in orbit. So one more fuel tank will definitely get us in orbit. So let's revert this flight back to assembly. And let's take this off. I'm actually going to add a second ejection pod because of the extra fuel tank. We're going to have too much weight for the parachute, which put this back on and split it right there and put one of these on here, which the one I put on here is the FLT 400 again. And again, like we're like in the ground here, so let me scroll back, grab my ship and move it up to where I see that engine. Now we got to check our segments, and looks like we need to go like this and move the engine down, and now we're lined up. Our sequence is perfect. Save and go back to launch. Attempt 2T. We have our throttle, ignition. Whoa, whoa, whoa. We are leading, but it's coming back. So now I didn't touch none of the controls. It's all going on its own. It's kind of leading and coming back. It's kind of good. And now it's leading really bad. Hopefully it'll come back when the side engines stop burning. which it does. See how it's standing back up? And I'm not touching any of the controls. I'm letting it do its thing. Now, if you're trying to complete this mission, you kind of want to watch this, and as soon as you get into all the parameters, obviously you launch that engine and it will complete the mission. But I'm not technically trying to complete that mission. I'm trying to put the craft in orbit. So if all the parameters are met, I'm not going to launch my engine until I need to put it in orbit. Which we're getting really good speed with the 3 fuel tanks, and we got an extra larger fuel tank, so we're still pretty good on that one engine burning, as long as it's burning. Just because of the extra weight, we didn't quite make it 1,000. But we eject that off right away. Now this time, since we didn't quite make 1,000, we got to go faster on the maneuver, because we're going to get up to speed quicker, or up here quicker. And if I get the node set, oh, yeah, so touchy. Oh, that's pretty good. Go back. Now we got 1 minute and 15 seconds to line the ship up. And since the ship is so small, it's really light, so it's really easy to go to maneuver. So you kind of want to tap your buttons. And sometimes it doesn't want to line up. It kind of wants to pull back. In which, when it does that, you just, tap it once and get it ready. Now, like I said, since it's a smaller engine, we kind of want to burn early so we can hit our mark. So I'm kind of waiting for the timer. And this time I want to start burning about 20 seconds minus. That gives it a little extra burn time. And we're at 25. Start to burn. Gives it a little extra burn time to try to catch up with itself to match that yellow line. It was what we're trying to match, is the yellow line. Now let's see if we can do it. And you kind of keep an eye on your targeting system right down here. Watch that blue, make sure it stays lined up. Don't worry about the yellow circle. Worry about the yellow arc and the V point, because if it starts going offline or out of the area, then that means you're really getting off this this yellow line right here, and that's what we're trying to achieve, which we still have over half a tank of fuel, which is good. But we got a minute and some seconds to burn. We are dropping in altitude, which that's helping us pick up speed, but you gotta watch how much you drop, because you'll end up catching the upper atmosphere, and when you do, then you'll lose speed really fast and you won't achieve your orbit. We're dropping a lot since the extra fuel tank, which our blue has moved a little bit because of the fact we're dropping. So we kind of make adjustments. Now when it goes into orbit, you'll see the camera shift and come back. And that tells you you made a complete circle around an orbit, which is about ready to do. Up. See, I cut my engine when that blue went far away real fast because, and we're kind of off way bad. So I need to erase this node as quick as possible and set another one, but this one I want to get it maneuvered back around so it tells me where I need to go. And since we're losing altitude so fast, I'm going to burn this as soon as I get it lined up. Which will help us get back and see how the camera shifted because I got a better orbit. Now we got a green check mark saying we're good, and there we are. We have an orbit around Kerbal at 62 and the AP's at 200. So it's a pretty decent orbit. 62 won't lose orbit, so that's good. We can erase our maneuver, and there we go. Nice orbit around Kerbal. A complete orbit. And we still got a little bit of fuel to bring our craft down, back down to the planet. And when we do this, we basically want to come over to your high point, because you want to hit your high point when you bring it back down. And you set a maneuver in which you basically lower down your circle. And see that yellow? It'll cut right into the planet. And it's not a very massive burn. See, it's only like 96.3 for 3 seconds. So we don't need a lot of fuel because we were at the high point. And we just got to maneuver to our blue mark. Now our timer is we got 15 minutes, 16 minutes to wait until this burn. Now here at this point, you can speed up time. Which I'm gonna go ahead and do that for video's sake. And just watch your countdown and make sure you slow down in enough time to adjust, because you may have to adjust your move. And there we go, 46 seconds until my burn, so now I need to adjust. It's there, it looks good. And now I got 35 seconds to wait for the burn. Now on this burn, I don't want to burn early. I want to burn right on the mark. So I will wait until it hits 0 before I start the engine. And I want to go full thrust and I have one finger on shift to hold it down, and I have one finger on X to cut the engine when I need it. And with a quick burn like this, you need to be prepared to cut that engine as quick as possible. So 3 seconds and go for a burn, which it brought us back out of orbit. See how it changed? Now I cut the engine a little early because just before the end your blue will start moving on you, and you kind of want to readjust and then tap your shift once for small, and we're right there on the mark. Now we're sitting pretty for a re-entry. And now it's just watching her come down for the parachute. Now you can either discouple your last of your fuel tank and engine and just let it go to crap, or since we're trying to do this mission as well, and we are coming down. We are in a sub-orbit, which that's what they wanted. I think I'm not going to inject my engine just yet. I'm going to wait and try to complete this mission, in which we got the escape the upper atmosphere mission completed. We have the 56,000 meter mission completed, so this is a good mission run. To get more research points, I want to do a crew report, and I want to save it because I don't have an antenna or a way to broadcast it. Plus I need the electricity for my final burn. So, watching our electricity. If you broadcast, it will drain that electricity down to nothing, and then we'll have no control over our ship. So now all we have to do is watch my altitude so I can ignite this engine and complete that mission as well. And you know, we're pretty high up, so let me speed up time just a little bit and bring it back down to where I need to ignite that engine. So I'm watching my timer, and we're getting pretty close. So now that we sped up time, I need to get back to, I want the X on the yellow circle down here. That way when I ignite this engine, I'm slowing myself down in a descent state and killing two birds with one stone. X, nope, this is the one I have to, well, it didn't complete the mission. Damn thing. Okay, well, maybe we won't complete that mission, but we're still in a descent. And it looks like we're going to land in the desert. Which is okay. Kerbal can land anywhere. And here we got the warning again not to speed up your time because you're in a low altitude, and you need to be paying attention to your craft. I mean, if you don't care, you can say don't show the warning again, and you can go beyond where it gives the warning out and speed up your time anyway. It looks like my Kerbal's having a great time. Mouth open wide, he's having a ball. Now the orbit, achieve orbit around Kerbal. I should have let the craft go all the way around Kerbal once to complete that mission. You have to go a complete circle for this mission to complete. So I would have got that mission done, probably that mission done. So yeah. I will definitely have to relaunch this craft and do it all over again just to complete those other missions. Which are our streamer of flamer, which we really don't need the engine anymore, but it's given us shielding, so I'll wait until after we get out of the upper atmosphere to eject my engine, because I don't want the weight. I want because the parachutes, because it's only got one parachute and it's not gonna slow the craft down. I mean, it'll slow the craft down enough, but it won't be a nice landing. It'll be kind of a crash landing. Went ahead and eject that engine. Now at this point you can actually turn off your SAS, and you can put out your parachute, and the parachute will actually stand the ship up it will, as it slows down, it will stand the ship up, so you don't have to do anything but watch it go down. And that is flight number 2. We achieved an orbit in 2 flights. Well, 3 if you count the misfire at the first of it. And nice parachute drop. Well, something else I noticed about, you got the abort button. It never used to work, but I'm not going to push it now to find out if it's working. Because if I abort, I got all these stuff done, why abort? And now I'm just waiting for this thing to land. Which our surface footage is 6.6 minutes a second. And I said you want to try to get it down to 5, but 6.6 is alright. I wouldn't push it too much past 8, because then you start hitting the ground pretty hard. In which this is just the capsule and 1 parachute. And it's moving at 6. So if you had that extra fuel tank on there, it would be like 11, and it would be coming down pretty hard. And this is a pretty soft landing. Now we're on the ground. The capsule's pretty low to the ground, so I'll EVA my Kerbal. And the reason why I EVA my Kerbal is for extra science points. Plant a flag, just for the hell of it. It's a land site. I'll do an EVA report. I'll save it. And I'll take samples of the ground. And I'll save that. And I'll walk my Kerbal back to my ship. Grab a board and get inside. And then I'll do a... Well, we already did a crew report, so you don't want to erase your old crew report. And I think we're pretty much done here. Escape. Go back to Space Center. And if you watched my first video, you should know how to retrieve your Kerbal. We got 23.5 resource points. We started out with 8. So completing those missions gave us quite a bit of resource points. Now it will have your flag listed, and it will have your ship. Let's take the flag off so you don't see the flag listed. So you don't take your flag up. And recover your ship. It's giving us 24.4 for the science stuff we did. We're getting pretty good money. Well, 594 refunded money for the parts. 23.8 reputation. And let's see what science points we got now. We got 47.9 points, which is pretty darn good. Here at this point, let's do a little buying here. That would be 20 points for that, and that's the engine and rockets, and that's your stabilizer, and that's the small engine we were playing with, which we're still doing a testing on. So let's go up here and let's buy the nicer engine and the bigger rockets, which that gives us 20.7 points. And let's jump down here and let's get the stabilizer, which that brings us down, but now we can really build a nice rocket for our next flight. That's the end of video number 2. Hope this helps, and come back and see the next one.